Let's talk about a thing called level. Level is defined as having a flat, even surface, a horizontal condition of the same height or elevation. So points of the same altitude or elevation would align in a horizontal fashion. No difference in elevation means the points are level with one another. Here we have a level. We know this level is level because the bubble is perfectly between the guidelines. The elevations of each endpoint could be measured through any number of surveying methods. And if the elevations are the same for the endpoints, then our surface fits the definition for level. If we place 3 tennis balls along this level and view from the side, we observe that the tennis balls will align perfectly in a continuously horizontal fashion. And given these fundamental definitions, understandings, measurements, and observations, it is logical to call this a level surface. But what happens to these properties when we increase the scale? Here's a level twice as long. The bubble is still in the center. Surveying could again confirm no difference in elevation along the surface, so the definition still applies. The tennis balls align horizontally, and it's still logical to call this surface level. Now I hold a 10-foot level. The properties remain unchanged. And with some Photoshop magic, I can clone myself and double the level once again, forming a 20-foot flat level plane. The properties of a level surface demand that as the level doubles again and again, it does so in a continuously horizontal fashion. Let's expand our human level along the length of a level runway. Once our level reaches 528 people, we will have constructed a 1-mile long, continuously level plane, a plane lacking any curve, bend, rise, or drop, perfectly flat, continuously horizontal. And if we place tennis balls on each of the 528 levels, we can reason that the tennis balls would still be aligned in a continuously horizontal fashion. But what if we wanted to expand our level much further? We could construct our level plane along the coastline, also known as median sea level. The coastline is a meandering, continuous line consisting of an infinite amount of points of the exact same elevation. If we had the manpower and resources, we could continually build this level all along the entire western coastline of the United States, and the result would be a 1,200-mile long level plane. Consider once again placing tennis balls on each of the 10-foot sections. If it's true that the properties of a flat level surface remain unchanged as the length doubles an unlimited amount of times, then the tennis balls will always be in perfect horizontal alignment. And if you have constructed in your mind a model of our coastline where all 700,000 tennis balls are in perfect horizontal alignment, then you have constructed for yourself the foundational realities of our Earth. Every coastline consists of an infinite amount of points that are all of the same elevation and are all continuously horizontal, exactly what we see and experience. And because the coastline is the same elevation as the surface of the ocean, all of the same properties must also apply to the ocean's surface, which is most accurately described as being flat, continuously horizontal, contained by land, and forever searching for its level. That is to say that our Earth is based on a plane, not a sphere, or that yes, the Earth is flat. A flat surface and a curved surface are two distinctly different things. Their properties are more opposite than they are similar. When the same fundamental properties for a level surface are compared to a curved surface, what will we find? Curve is defined as to have or take turn, change, or deviation from a straight line or plane surface. Here is a standard hula hoop. When we place 3 tennis balls along this curving surface, do the tennis balls align horizontally? Observation or logic alone would be enough to know with certainty that the tennis balls could never be in perfect horizontal alignment along this curving surface. And since we don't have horizontal alignment, the bubble on the level does not read as level when connecting one ball to the next. Surveying measurements would verify that the three balls are not at the same elevation. So a curved surface outright contradicts the definition for level. And once again, we have to consider the question, do the properties change when we increase the scale? And just like the flat level surface, we could double the radius of a curved circle or sphere an infinite amount of times, but the properties of a curved surface do not change with an increase in scale. No three tennis balls or points along the surface would ever be perfectly level with one another and would never align perfectly in a horizontal fashion. We could move the tennis balls closer together, but still no level and still no continuous horizontal line. Points of the same elevation align only on a continuous horizontal plane. Our coastline expands continuously horizontal. The surface of the ocean does the same. The sphere-Earth model contradicts all of the fundamental criteria for a level surface. There is nothing continuously horizontal about the surface of a sphere. Only one of these surfaces depicts a realistic representation of the surface of the ocean, the coastlines, or our world as a whole. Is it logical to think that there would be nearly 200 miles of curve, rise, or drop in our 1,200-mile-long level? Or does it make more sense that there would be zero rise, zero drop, and zero curve at any point along that 1,200-mile-long continuously horizontal, flat, level plane? The sphere model demands that our level plane would actually be curving. There would indeed be 18 degrees of rotation in 1,200 miles of distance. So what would happen if all the people holding that level all together were to flip that level upside down? Would the plane they're holding then be oriented like this? Of course not. But this depiction really isn't any more or less ridiculous than to believe that our flat level plane could ever have any vertical curve or bend at all. And the problem would become increasingly obvious as we increase the scale. I think it's logical to say that as the human level extends further and further, it does so in a continuously horizontal fashion. Because that's what it means to be level. No difference in elevation. Continuously horizontal. Tennis balls all align horizontally, and it would never change no matter how far their level extends. Just imagine that you're flying in an airplane that is maintaining a constant altitude. This plane is traveling on a perfectly straight pathway and will never deviate from that course. There are no outside wind factors affecting this flight, and the plane will never run out of fuel. Consider all that we have just discussed regarding the properties of a level surface. Is it logical to think that if you fly in that plane far enough on a straight pathway, that you will eventually be oriented like this by comparison to your original orientation? You keep flying onward, still along that same perfectly straight pathway, still at the same altitude, and at some point further along, you would not only be flying upside down compared to your original departure orientation, but you would now be traveling in the exact opposite direction from when you began. Still, you continue traveling further along that same straight pathway, and at any point along this journey, theoretically and with a strong enough zoom lens, you should be able to point a camera directly back down the line of flight and view back to where you started, because you would always have direct line of sight to that point. And don't you know that if you just keep going a little further along that same perfectly straight pathway, you will arrive exactly back at your starting point? Or does this narrative now seem irrational, entirely impossible, lacking logic and reason, and completely out of touch with our own personal experience, observation, and perhaps newfound perspective and knowledge? Oh, but Aaron, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of what a level surface actually means. I must now address this counter argument. In this book, like probably every other book in every university around the world being used in the fields of surveying, civil engineering, and landscape architecture, Field describes a level surface as a continuous surface that is at all points perpendicular to the direction of gravity. A level surface is not a flat surface or a plane. A level surface is a surface that follows the sea level of the earth. So let's discuss this description sentence by sentence. Since the first sentence is entirely dependent on the existence of gravity, we must now address this topic specifically. Think back to 9th grade physical science class. When I ask people, why does the stone sink down through the water? They tell me, because the stone is more dense than the water. Another way of saying that is that the stone is more dense than the medium surrounding it, and so it sinks down through that medium. When I ask people why a ping pong ball will rise up through the water, people seem to have no problem telling me that the ping pong ball is less dense than the water or the medium it is surrounded by. When I ask people why a helium balloon rises up through the air, they have no problem telling me that the helium balloon is less dense than the air, and so it rises up through that medium. And finally, I ask the question, why does a tennis ball sink down through the air to the ground? And it is at this point in my line of questioning that people start scratching their heads, because they have been programmed to believe that the answer to this question must be gravity. However, they also realize that density perfectly explains why the tennis ball falls to the ground. When you consider these four conditions in terms of density and buoyancy, everything makes perfect sense, as there are no questions left unanswered. There is no need for further complex scientific explanation from the experts. There is no need to simply believe what you are told, because everything is perfectly relatable to our own experience and our own understanding of simple physical concepts. However, when these four conditions are considered in terms of gravity, there are further questions requiring answers, because gravity may explain why the stone and tennis ball sink down through the water and air respectively, but it fails to account for how the ping pong ball and the helium balloon rise up through the same respective mediums. It is now necessary for overly complex scientific explanation, and there is now a demand to simply believe what you are told by the experts with scientific degrees, even though those explanations go against our own human experience and fundamental understanding of simple physical concepts. Density and buoyancy perfectly explain why objects rise up or sink down through the mediums they are surrounded by, depending on their relative density to those mediums. When we say gravity, we are really talking about density. And when we're discussing objects that rise up through these mediums, we are now talking in terms of buoyancy. Gravity is a false conceptual theory, and its sole purpose is to sell you on the sphere lie by providing an explanation for how we are all firmly attached to the surface of a sphere. The second sentence in our description for a level surface reads, "A level surface is not a flat surface or a plane." This one sentence goes against everything that we have previously discussed regarding the fundamental properties for a level surface. It outright contradicts the definition previously presented in the same exact way that the properties of a curved surface contradict the properties of a level surface. I would challenge you to find anyone with even a little construction knowledge and ask them, hey, what would you say if I told you that a level surface is not a flat surface or a plane? You will be laughed at in the same way that I am laughed at when I first tell people the earth is a plane. The same way I laughed at the guy who first exposed me to this undeniable truth. The third sentence is the only one with a shred of truth. A level surface is a surface that follows the sea level of the earth. Well, it just so happens that we already constructed a level surface that follows the sea level of the earth. we determined that all the tennis balls would align on a continuous horizontal plane. There is no curve to be seen or reconciled with. It only takes one piece of undeniable proof to know with certainty that we have been lied to. We have been lied to on a scale so epic, it's hard to contemplate that such a lie could possibly exist. Once you accept this plain reality as truth, you will surely wonder, what else have they been lying to us about? And that's how Flat Earth becomes the gateway truth. That's how the benefit to humanity can be realized and where positive change for future generations can begin. You'll wonder, for what purpose did they perpetrate this lie unto mankind? What specifically have they taken from us in the process? And who is they? These questions and more are what I intend to address in subsequent videos. And based on my own experience, I believe you must first recognize that our world is a plane before you will be prepared to seek out for yourself or hear from me or someone else the answers to these questions. One of their many reasons for creating this lie, and one of the many things taken from us in the process, is the removal of God from our lives. And in just my own time on this earth, I feel like they have made great strides towards accomplishing this goal. As long as we, the people of humanity, are unwilling and unable to recognize the foundational truth regarding the physical makeup of our world, this small group of satanic worshiping evil elites will continue ruling over all of us, will continue deceiving us, will continue dividing us, will continue stealing from us, will continue slaughtering us, will continue sowing chaos throughout our society, and will continue trampling our inherent rights and freedoms as human beings. Rights and freedoms that no man should be able to give or take away. Knowledge is power, and just as the Bible says, the truth shall set you free. This moment in time is our opportunity to take back the reins of our own destiny. This is our opportunity to change the course of history, to expose the other congruent agendas which negatively impact our lives and pocketbooks, and to finally break free from the chains of oppression which most of us aren't even aware we are shackled by. It's been said that if you have the ability, you have the responsibility. Well, I say if you have knowledge that can benefit humanity, then you have the responsibility to share that knowledge. And it's up to us, we the people, because the governments of the world aren't going to tell us the world is a plane. Mass media isn't going to tell us it's a plane. Big tech companies aren't going to tell us, and neither will the public education system. These staples of our society, like every other societal institution, are fully controlled by the same people who made us all believe that we are spinning on a ball. So the only way this information will spread is through a grassroots effort. So who amongst you possesses the courage to share this information and to discuss it with your loved ones? Who possesses the courage to further educate yourself on how our Earth system truly functions? The courage to leave behind our programmed bias and consider new evidence we never knew existed concerning many current and historical events? Who has the courage to pursue these truths without regard for what people might think about you, and despite whose feelings might become hurt in the process? Because the truth doesn't care about perception, feelings, emotions, or what percent of us is aware of its existence. The truth simply is, and nothing more. If you would like to support my continued work, here are some ways you can do so.